I used to make so much food for football
Yes, and
Sunday.
just sit
We put
all
on our
day.
jersey. Oh,
Yep.
it was just
Yep. I
heaven.
had a fourth quarter spot. I used to sit there for good luck. But
Mm,
Elsa, I'm looking forward to seeing your new show. One more time, plug it
thank you.
for everybody and tell my
Absolutely.
followers where they can find you.
Excellent. Thank you so much. It's Blue Family Unity Show. It's coming on after KSOC on Thursday nights, and you can find me at elsakurt.com.
Thank you so much for being here. Again, thank you to you and yours, and blessings. It was nice meeting you. Juan, roll it.
Nice meeting you.
Welcome to tonight's episode, a pop-up episode, another Come Save Me episode. I have to always just spring up when Juan calls me randomly in the middle of the day. Juan runs his whole network, by the way. He wants a whole lot of credit. Everything's on my back. It's killing me carrying this guy around. He's a small dude, but man, he is heavy. He comes with a lot of baggage. And so what I'm doing is I'm jumping on here tonight. We're going to do some ranting. We're going to do some raving. I would love to see your questions, your comments. We're going to be doing segments throughout this episode, so that way I make sure that I get to talk about the things that you guys find are important. Big topics for us to talk about tonight, obviously the border and how horrible that is, and it's the creation of one Joseph R. Biden. And we're going to talk a little bit about comparison from last president to this president. I got some fun things I think you guys are going to like about that. And we have to talk about Afghanistan. The reason we're going to talk about Afghanistan is because nobody is talking about Afghanistan. And that is the point. That is absolutely the point. If you follow me on social media, if you've seen anything that I've been doing since I've been back on YouTube, myself and very few other people have been saying, what about Afghanistan? It's still there. There's still Americans there, but Biden, reading the political winds, saw that even people that backed him did not back the way that he withdrew. So he threw out that red meat to his supporters, which was vaccine mandates, and they all jumped on it and they all circled up around him just so they could protect him. And then we all got together on our side and started firing in on how unconstitutional this is. And then whoa, what's going on in Afghanistan? Nobody's talking about it. They want that gone as fast as humanly possible, and they're getting their way. What's pathetic is they're actually probably happy the border exploded when it did, which was magically on another pre-planned Joseph R. Biden vacation back to Delaware. Afghanistan falls, can't find him, he's on vacation. The border's on fire, can't find him, he's on vacation. I'm sure they're actually not too upset about it because they also have their base, which wants open borders. They think that we are obligated to all these people that want to come here, and they just get to live the American dream. All the things that we've built, that those that came before us built, that those who have come here legally have built. And if you want to come, says Joseph R. Biden in a debate live on television where he said there should be a surge at the border, where if you're seeking asylum, you should surge the border, and then we get the surge. And Psaki wants to give the BS excuse, not swearing yet. And by the way, Juan, I didn't swear last week, so I get 2 tonight. That's the math. That's exactly what's happening. I get 2 for your boy 2 Cent. Psaki first wants to say that it was under Trump that it was going up, but of course nobody brings up the rate. And then also wants to say that it's seasonal. It's all smoke and mirrors. It's all a lie. It's all because Joseph R. Biden said you should surge the border. These Haitians, I made the joke Monday, I think it was, how did they get there? How did they get there? Turns out, reporting is showing, it was from the Daily Mail, I think showed it, and Daily Caller. They were showing these Haitians have been in South American countries for 3 to 4 years. What was going on 3 to 4 years ago? Who was president 3 to 4 years ago? Was it a guy who ran on the platform of building a wall and securing the border? Do you think that rhetoric had anything to do with these people staying where they were? And do you think the current administration's rhetoric and policies has anything to do with how they walked thousands of miles to the border to surge the border as he called for? But no, it's always Trump's fault. It's always Trump's fault. And like I said, here I am already talking about the border and how that was used as a distraction away from Afghanistan. They want you looking at anything but Afghanistan. The coverage of it has absolutely tanked. You cannot find an Afghanistan headline on CNN. Can't find it. The AP, Reuters, other not so hard left, CNBC, NBC, CBS, ABC. It's so hard for me to read those. I do my best because you all need a balanced approach. Here comes the roast that I need for the day. We might get some roast going out here in a little bit. I appreciate that. I'll leave that question up there. I'll get back to it in a second. I try to do my best to get the spectrum of what's being covered out there. It gets really hard when I start getting into MSNBC and the like. I try to get the spectrum because I think that's the best way for me to give you the my insight, as it were. I know a lot of folks say, hey, I come to you for the news. Cool. Not really the news. I sort of react to the news. The biggest thing I do like to do is to pull out the tidbits of actual fact that they hide way, way down in there after all the hyperbole and all the opinion and all the BS in a piece that's not marked opinion, by the way. I love the new one. Catch, there's always subtleties, and that nothing gets by me. They change opinion to analysis. So analysis now means it's more factual than my bullshit. There's one. My bullshit, same one. That's still one. My BS, my BS opinion, because now it's actually analysis. All right, let me see what this question says. What kind of foolishness getting rid of the horses? Well, so if you guys didn't see it, beyond one? Oh, there I am. Thanks a lot, buddy. They needed something to distract from the distraction. It's that pathetic. This is where we are. We had Afghanistan, which was such a nightmare that they needed something to distract us. So we got the border and COVID mandates. And now that is so bad. We got the optics, we, the left, in this hypothetical situation. Oh, I did this. I owe somebody a drink. Anyway, they now have the imagery of the whips. They're whipping them. Maxine Waters says this is worse than slavery. Kind of not, tiny bit not worse than slavery. Turns out, I wasn't there, but I read about it. The slaves didn't want to be here as slaves, and these people crossing the border want to be here, so not necessarily the same. These people coming across the border are breaking the laws that we have on the books. And I'm not going to get into what the laws were of slavery at the time. You cannot make an argument to me that enforcing our border is anything like enslaving people from a couple hundred years ago, as disgusting and horrible as that is. And yes, it is a part of this country. And no, I don't gloss over it. And no, nor do I think that the people of today owe for what people did hundreds of years ago. We can get into that another night. But they got their imagery. They got something that looked really, really bad. So now we have to have an investigation. Reporting is showing that these officers that you saw have been suspended, and they're looking at an investigation. What do you think the Department of Homeland Security is going to find in this very unbiased, leave some of these up, Juan, this very unbiased investigation that we're going to get? And they were doing their job, and they were being aggressive, defending the border, which is their job, which is what you sent them there to do, underfunded and understaffed, and they're doing what they can, and God forbid they're being aggressive and using their horses, which is what they do. Has anybody ever been Austin, Baton Rouge will even do it, New Orleans will do it, I've seen it in other cities. They bring in horses at the end of the night when you're done partying to move you out of the way. These aggressive stances they do with the horses are commonplace techniques to get you, the human being, to move away. This is all very normal, but of course they got the optics that they wanted. Now we have these horrible, as Maxine Waters said, cowboys, and she even did this, I think, cowboys, and they're whipping them with their reins. She was at least smart enough to realize it was reins and not whips, but of course she has to use that term. Why are the celebrities being so quiet? Gotta be a rhetorical question. Gotta be a rhetorical question. We know why they're being so quiet, because this isn't working. None of this is working. Joseph R. Biden is not a moderate. He's not a sweet old man. He's not a nice guy. He's not a unifier. I was just having this conversation with someone at work the other day. I find more and more hidden Republicans. I work for a very liberal company, but I find more and more Republicans as I just sort of kind of have conversation. And we were talking about Joseph R. Biden, how radically left he's been in just these 9 months. I said, so was he hiding this for 47 years? Was he this radical this whole time? Or has he been that drastically impacted by his left, by the squad, by the progressives, by all of those who are trying to kowtow to the woke, to Antifa, to everyone on their left that's further and further left? And I got to tell you, when you go back to the crime bill that he was a part of, I don't think he was radically this far to the left. I think he's a chameleon, and I think he's made a lot of money and become the most powerful person on the planet. And I don't think it was an accident. I think I have drastically underestimated this guy. I think he kind of fell into it. I think Barack Obama plucking him out of Delaware and making him a name that other people knew had a massive, massive part of it. But that was also because at the time, and I was having a conversation with somebody else, that he was picked because he was a moderate. And they thought with Obama, who's going to be so far to the left, that the moderate VP might give the optics that he's not going to be as far left as he is. Turns out he at least is. Maybe he was. But I think his guy has gotten away with being underestimated his whole life and laughing, saying, go ahead, underestimate me. Go ahead. And he kept moving up. It took a very, very, very long time. Sleight of hand is a good way to put it. He definitely got us looking at this hand while he was working on this hand. I like the fact that you call it like I see it. I've called it like I see it, and I'm right. What do you want me to do about that? I can't do anything about it. It's a lot of fun, though. I do like always being right. It's the same people talking about the missing white woman syndrome. Let's talk about that. You guys got me a little bit all over the place tonight, but screw it. We're having a good time. I'm talking with you guys. America first, absolutely. You guys are getting me all over the place. Juan, hold off on these for a little bit. I'm getting distracted. I'm seeing squirrels all over the place. So let's talk about Petito. First of all, how horrible. I'm a father. I don't know what I would do if one of my children went missing. I'd probably just tear the walls down and eat glass. I don't know what I would do. It's so horrific. I did have the conversation myself. Why, I'm being objective here, why was this missing person case the one that was put out forward? I never understand that. There are so many missing people. Leave it to Joy Reid, the wonderful, magnificent, not biased, certainly not racist, certainly not homophobic, because those tweets are from those blog entries that she had from years ago. She was hacked. It wasn't her, so she's not a racist or a homophobe. I definitely have said both of those phrases. She's not a racist. She's not a homophobe. She has said missing white woman syndrome is why. Then CNN jumps on it. And CNN put up several people of color who are missing. They're not important enough. You can find thousands of white people who are missing right now. Are they not important enough? It's not because people are one color or the other. And every single thing now has to be about race. I thought it was strange too. I'm an open and forthright person. I thought it was strange too. Why is this one particular person on the news? I don't know, versus another person. I'll give you another example. Why is one female teacher who's committing statutory rape with a student, why is that one person on the news all over the place one day? There's hundreds, if not thousands of them doing it. I don't understand how one of them gets plucked out. But of course, CNN has the answer. Joy Reid has the answer. It's racism. It's obviously racism. That's the only answer. That's what they want to teach. That's what CRT is. Everything is racism. And if it's not, it's because you're racist. And they have that circular logic built in, which is a beautiful, beautiful way to argue, unless you're slightly smarter than a mouse, which is, I have made my point. If you disagree with me, that proves my point. What a great debate tactic. Or maybe there's another side to things, but that is what CRT is. That's critical race theory. It's teaching our children to only see themselves through the color of the lens of race, and to see their classmates through the lens of race. All right, Juan, you can get a couple more of those. Actually, you know what? Let's do a quick plug. I'm ready for a plug. You got those up, or you want me to give you a minute? Need a minute? All right, I'm going to give him a minute. Let's go right into, we already did the border. We already did Afghanistan. He's got my stuff up. Are you ready? All right, let's get it up there. All right, there it is. Woke R Us, the #1 seller right now on Woke R Us. I want you guys going over there. You can't go there now because I want you to stay here with me live, and I want all of your questions and I want all of your topics so you can talk to me. Woke R Us, the #1 seller right now. We're running this limited, but you guys have kept it hot, so I'm going to keep it going just a little bit longer. Get the next one in there, Juan. We're done with Fauci. I believe this is the #3, if not #4. number 4 selling on the site right now. It's getting cold in other parts of the country. That's what I've been told. I'm in Florida, as my father would say. We have 2 seasons, summer and second summer. We're done with Biden. This one is a little bit. I've got some new stuff coming. So that means these lines that you're seeing right now, Juan, bring me back in. These t-shirts that you're seeing, there I am. These t-shirts that you're seeing right now, they are limited. We got new stuff coming in. I've got stuff coming up for chrisms, as my youngest daughter used to say. I want you all saying chrisms from now on. It's how we do things around here. And we're going to bring up some new stuff coming up soon. I want all of you going over to Woke R Us, buy that merch. I want that money in my pocket, and I want those shirts on your back. All right, we're going to go on to another fun topic, something that people, I don't think, really have been talking about. The idea of, what do you get if Trump was everything the media says he was? Think about it real quick. What do you get if all those collusion and he's a puppet and he's being manipulated? I think you see where I'm going. What do you get in those situations, or in a situation where Trump actually did the things that they say he did? You get, second one of the night, you get the fucking Bidens. That's what you get. Let's talk specifically about Hunter v. Don Jr. And specifically, as a Latino, I feel Creepy Joe, the most racist person. Absolutely. Just go back to the things that he said, calling men of color, young men of color, super predators. If you don't vote for me, then you ain't black. You can't go into a 7-Eleven without a slight Indian accent. I'm not kidding. Barack Obama is the first clean, articulate black person that we've had in running for high elected office. These are all actual quotes. Again, what you would get if Trump actually did the things that they say he did. You'd get Joe Biden. If Don Jr. did what they said he did, you'd get Hunter Biden. Let's go back to, and I haven't heard anybody talk about this, the Trump Tower meeting with the Russian lawyer. And there's the collusion. That's where it started. Don Jr. was there. No, being a neophyte to politics, somebody came and said, hey, I've got some dirt on your opponent. Everybody gets approached with that. Everybody takes a look at it. They vet it. What is it? It's bullshit. I didn't say it. It is. It isn't. Once he realized that they were there to pitch him, then he walked away. And there was nothing to it. And they pounded it and they pounded it and they pounded it because that's where the collusion is. He's being influenced. However, Hunter Biden has said he was picking up money from Ukrainian energy companies by sitting on their board. And he has said, I have had no experience in that at all. And looking back, yeah, maybe it doesn't look so good. He was taking money from Chinese companies. Don Jr. had a meeting. The world melted several times over. God recreated it. It melted again. God recreated it. Hunter Biden actually takes money from foreign nations. No correlation. Nothing. Has no impact. It's just Hunter Biden. It's not his dad. I think we're going to start seeing more about the emails because Politico has now said that this is real. The laptop, that is. And because he had the cloud backup storage on it, his emails are there as well. So H holds 10 for the big guy. Who's the big guy? Who's H? I do think some of this is going to start coming out. But again, it goes back to the concept of, if the Trumps did what the media said he did, you'd have the Bidens. You would absolutely have the Bidens. Let's go back 1v1 of Trump v. Biden in this situation. Trump was a dictator, right? Trump was a dictator. He was a threat to our democracy. I can't think of instances where Trump said, I know this is unconstitutional, but I'm going to do it anyway to buy myself more time. I'm talking specifically about Biden extending the eviction moratorium unconstitutionally and declaring it unconstitutional, but that he was going to do it anyway. Sounds pretty dictatorial to me. Sounds a tiny bit dictatorial to me. But Joe Biden can do it because he's a good guy. He's a moderate. He's a nice guy. He's certainly not a dictator. Trump gave the states, rightfully gave the states the ability to run their states. And that's why the media in California and Michigan and Jersey and New York especially all lost their ever-loving minds because Trump wasn't telling everyone how to do their own reaction to COVID. Biden is going to come in here, being the liberal that he is and as far left as he's gone. He is going to tell everyone how to live their lives, and they rejoice in it, and they love it. He's going to mandate upon you a vaccine. He's going to mandate upon you a medical procedure. And then if I'm on here, I could potentially get in trouble if I disagree with the great and powerful Biden. So which one of those actually sounds like a dictator? Which one of those actually sounds drunk on power? I know my vote in this case, Joseph R. Biden. What has he done in these last few minutes? Let's talk about what he's done in these short few 9 months. We're not even to 9 months out of 4 years. We only got 3 years left, folks. A short 3+ years. That's all we got. Inflation is up. You can absolutely attribute that to the BS COVID bill that we did not need. That also gave more incentive for people to stay home and not go to work, which has now caused a hiring. You have this weird situation where you have unemployment and you have low hiring at the same time. It's a very weird place to be, but only the liberals could possibly make that happen, and they did. So inflation has gone up. Any of those raises and wages that you've seen, Bloomberg is already reporting, that's been eaten up. That's absolutely been eaten up. You're actually getting less for your money now than you were a year ago. We're an absolute laughingstock on the world stage from Afghanistan. We just screwed over the French, took away, I believe, a $70 billion deal from the French that they were working with the Australians. And I had said, people were asking me last week, hey, what do you think about the U.S. working with Australia to give them nuclear submarines? Because there's so much going on, that one just came up. I do like the idea of Australia patrolling their own waters. They're geographically very close to the South China Sea. I do like a trusted, even though they're kind of being really weird over there. I have no idea what's going on with Australia right now. But if they want to patrol their own waters, I'm for it. Come to find out, we absolutely screwed over the French. I was told it was a return to our European allies. I was told under good authority that we were back in the world stage and it wasn't America first. Seems a little America first, Joe. Seems a tiny bit America first. And then nobody wants to cover at all the idea that the French pulled out their ambassador. That's a big deal. That is a really big deal. He absolutely screwed over the French. And then the headlines afterwards were first phone call with French president after spat over Australia. Spat over Australia? We screwed them. Screwed the French. A $70 billion hit in the sale of military technology is a massive hit to the French. It's, has an impact to our economy over here, but it is a massive, massive hit to the French. But that's cool because America first, other than on the border, other than on jobs, other than on the economy. But I guess America first in that instance. Juan, do we have any more questions that maybe we can address in the last couple minutes? I'd love to interact with the followers. Let's see if he's got anything for me. If not, what we could do is I could talk a little bit more about Australia because there's some crazy stuff going on down there. We'll have to become the tyrannical dictators that they railed against. You know what's really interesting? What was it? The guy leader from the Sex Pistols, Johnny Rotten, I think, was one of them. He said, who knew that it was going to be the Republicans that were the cool group that were fighting against the oppressive government? Who knew that's what it was going to end up being? I was driving home the other day, rocking out to Rage Against the Machine, that F you, I won't do what you tell me. And I know there's some pretty far left guys, but I think in today's day and age, it's us on the right that are screaming with our fists in the air, F you, I won't do what you tell me. And we're just screaming it because I don't have to. Because like the shirt said, here is my vaccine passport. That doesn't count, Juan. This was brilliant by Trump to put all the COVID decisions to the states. That's the way it has to be done. South Dakota is drastically different than Florida, as my father would say, which is different than Texas, which is different than New York, which is different than Oklahoma. They're different. And then at that point, also, let's look at Florida. So if from Tallahassee, DeSantis tried to run everything, he would then have to tell people in the panhandle to do things the exact same way they're doing it down in Miami, the exact same way that's being done in Tampa, the exact same way that's being done in Central Florida in the Everglades. That doesn't make sense. So how can we do that for an entire country? You have to get the decision making to as low a level as possible. And that does include and should start with you, the individual. We got a couple more minutes and then we're going to get going. Do you think there will be a food shortage? No, the American food production is insane. There's far too much ability for us to make food. Don't worry about that. I see that being fine. Israel's talking about pulling Israeli embassy. And let me research that a little bit. I would not be surprised. I don't think that we are a friend to them right now. We had to fight and scratch and claw to replenish that Iron Dome that they had, which is what they used to defend themselves against Islamic terrorism. Yes, never comply. Hey, I support your decision to be you. Give me a couple more, Juan. Let's get in here. I'm having a good time with this. We got a couple more minutes. DeSantis got the meds on his own. He absolutely did. I always screw this up. The monoclonal. So go back a couple weeks. Blue check marks all over Twitter. We're going nuts that DeSantis was pushing the early treatment and they were getting mad. His ratio of talking about the vaccine versus talking about treatment is wildly out of whack. He should be talking about the vaccine. Why is he talking about the vaccine? He has the vaccine distribution up. We have an incredibly old population here, and over 80% of our most vulnerable are vaccinated because of what he's put in place. Those that want it can get it. So what's next? How do we treat it? So he starts building that up. But of course, he's a terrible person. It works. So now because we have some form of a socialized medicine here, they're going to start rationing and deciding who gets it and who doesn't. And it certainly was definitely not political payback. Do we have any more, Juan? You got one more for me? I got about 30 seconds. I'd love to get one more. With that, guys, I'm being told no. I had an absolute blast. Thank you for following me over here. If you got the graphics up tonight, Juan? Or maybe not tonight. Maybe next time. You guys can find me at 2centksj on Twitter. I want to see you guys starting to follow me over there. At 2centksj on the TikTok. Here's my 2 cents here on the YouTube. Take a look at the outlet that Juan has started for all of us. It's called Right America Media. I want you to look them up on the Facebook if you guys are on that. Right America Media. Take a look at them. I contribute there as well. And with that, thank you so much for being here. I had a great time. Thank you so much for interacting with me tonight. And with that, that's been my 2 cents.
You're part of the law enforcement family. This is your show. Here we talk about all things Leo family life. The good, the bad, the funny and the sad, and everything in between. The Blue Family Unity Show was created, written, and produced by Elsa Kurt. Music written and produced by Dan Tracy.
Well, hello, Blue Family. Welcome to another episode of Blue Family Unity. I hope this finds you well today. I am going to talk about some facts that I was going to say I'm going to spit some facts, but I don't like that word. I have a thing about words. There's a lot of words that bother me. The obvious ones, I'm not even going to say them, but I bet you can right off the top of your head think of some words that you absolutely abhor and you never want to hear people say them.
I was already waiting for you, bud.
I'm that kind of person that I lose my mind over.
I appreciate the help. I know I was kind of going to you a lot, and I had a lot on your plate.
But anyhow,
I do appreciate you helping out.
Facts with you so that you can share a bunch of facts
with
other people, if you so choose, or just simply know them and have them in your toolkit, in your arsenal of information to give to people. And the reason that I'm doing this is because I really, well, 2 reasons actually. I love facts, and I'm a facts over feelings kind of girl. So I think it's really good to have them. And the other reason I think it's really good to have them, to know them, is so that when people want to argue with you or say really stupid things based on, their feelings, then you can share some facts with them. And as long as just keep in mind, and I have to keep this in mind too, they don't give a shit about facts, just like I don't give a shit about their feelings. I know that was harsh and aggressive. I'm in that kind of mood today. You're going to have to bear with me or not. It's up to you. You can shut this off and say, screw it, I'm not in the mood for her nonsense today. But if you're in a sassy kind of mood, like I am today, and I'll tell you what started it. So, well, this has been going on for like forever. For as long as I've been a vocal police family advocate, this has been going on. Most of the time, it doesn't really bother me. And I think it would be going too far to say that it bothers me right now. It's just, like I said, I can't stand ignorance. I can't stand willful stupidity when information is always readily available. So what started it? today, this time was every freaking time I do a TikTok video these days. So apparently, like, the trolls have discovered my existence on TikTok. And it took them a while. I mean, it was nice. It was very peaceful. But now every time I do a live TikTok video, they come flooding in with all their idiot comments. Like, so right now, if you're listening to the podcast instead of watching it on YouTube, I am wearing one of my 2 thin blue line hats. And that sets them off. 2 things set them off like freaking crazy. The thin blue line and the American flag lose their shit at the sight of those 2 things. And they come in with all their, all the usual bullshit. I've talked about this in other episodes. They come in with all the usual bullshit. They call it, what do they call it? They call it a racist flag. They call it desecrating the flag. They call me, the second they see the flag, they say you're a Trumpster. They make all kinds of assumptions and blah, 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 and all that kind of stuff. So, one of the biggest of all of the fabulous things that they come in and say, the one we're really addressing, or kind of the group we're addressing today, is the one, of course, that has to do with law enforcement, because all the other ones are not even worth it. I mean, we can certainly get into politics anytime you want. If you want to have a show about that, I guess we could. It's not really my forte. I'm learning, though. I am immersing myself. I am educating myself. And because I want to be able to speak intelligently on those topics. And I always feel like I don't quite know enough to speak with, authority or simply intelligence on the topic. So that's been the homework I've given to myself, to really, really, really pay more attention. And I pay attention, but I pay attention like the rest of us do. I know just enough to get by, to know what's going on, or get the gist of what's going on politically. In the grand scheme of things, I kind of always know what's going on as to how it affects law enforcement and family life. But the broader scope, I kind of get the headlines, and that's been more or less it. But not anymore. So anyhow, once again, I stray from our topic. Our topic today is policing facts, law enforcement facts that most people do not know, and a lot of people probably do not care either. But if they are going to come at you with their half-baked truths and their, corporate or establishment media lies, then here's some stuff that you can correct them with, okay? So I have multiple sources that I get this information from. One of my favorite sources, I quote him all the time, or I credit him all the time. His name is Jeffrey James Higgins. He's actually also an author, like I am. And he wrote an article about policing, about the facts of policing. And I will put that link in the show's comments so that you can read it for yourself. It is excellent. He truly did his homework, and he made my life easy because he did his homework, and now I can just cite his findings and his research and his stuff and things. So I thank him for that. I always credit him for that. But this is probably one of the best, most concise, informative articles I've read in some time. And there's a lot of them out there. This is just happens to be one that I found on Law Enforcement Today, and I love it. And by the way, if you are not a Law Enforcement Today member, you really should be. And not just because I am a contributor, not just because I'm a contributor of theirs, but that's certainly part of it. But yeah, it's a fantastic news site. It is everything patriot, law enforcement, first responder life, and it is fantastic. Law Enforcement Today is the largest police-owned and operated media company in the country, and they also have this incredible platform called LET Unity, and you can see me on there. It is there's so much with LET Unity that you can get. It's basically being called the Netflix of the law enforcement community or the first responder community. But it is everything. It's shows, VIP services and offers, and tons more. And we're going to have another great offer coming for you very, very soon. So stay tuned for that. But okay, so I'm done plugging law enforcement today for the moment. But seriously, get over there and join. Oh, and by the way, you can use my discount code to join. It's Blue Family. You use that at checkout and you'll save 10%. So that's pretty darn cool, isn't it? But anyhow, so that was where I first saw Jeffrey James Higgins' article. And it's pretty fantastic. So I took heavily from him. And I got more information through the Daily Wire with Ben Shapiro, and who I love, by the way. This is not a paid promotional thing. I love Ben Shapiro, and highly recommend you listen and watch him for incredible facts and information. But yeah, again, I get nothing out of telling you that other than the satisfaction of knowing that more people are seeing and hearing him. Okay, so you ready? Let's get down to business. So the claim that you hear over and over and over and over again is that policing in America is systemically racist, right? How many times you've heard this? You could probably make a compilation. You could probably make like a compilation video, a montage video of all of the corporate media stations saying exactly that. Policing in America is systemically racist. All right, so the response to that, the simple response to that is, no, it's not, but thanks. But the fact-based response to that is pretty detailed. So there's a lot of facts here. So you can either get a pen and paper or you could just play this over and over again. I'm totally cool with that. I wouldn't make you do that. One of the things that they love to say in the news all the time is unarmed suspect, unarmed youth, unarmed black male. This is what they rush to say every time. So there's a few things about that. So number one, shooting an unarmed suspect can be justified if a suspect makes a furtive movement, attacks an officer, or tries to take the officer's firearm. If an officer feels the threat of force, or if the officer feels a threat to himself or those around him, he is within the scope of his duties to take action, and that means to stop the threat. Okay, oh, and that goes, since we just said that, that goes to the other thing, which is actually not even on my list, but now we're going to talk about it. The other thing that they love to say when an unarmed or armed suspect gets shot and killed, they love to say, well, why couldn't they just shoot him in the leg? And I know that right now, every single law enforcement family member that is listening to this or watching it just shook their head and rolled their eyes, because you hear this constantly. Why couldn't they just shoot him in the leg? Or why couldn't they shoot the gun out of his hand? Obviously, we're talking about an armed suspect. Or shoot the knife out of his hand. Why couldn't they do that? So, you know, the best thing to be able to do would be to show them, these people asking those questions, show them the videos of how fast an attack can happen, the seconds and milliseconds that it takes for an armed or unarmed person to either draw their weapon or attack. Obviously, that's not possible to do. So not in this context. I mean, I guess if you're watching the video, I could splice in some videos of that, but I will give some links. That's a good idea, right? Give some links so that if you want to share that with people, you can share it on your social media if you wanted to. Yeah, that's what we'll do. So shooting an unarmed suspect is, that phrase is very misleading, because the implication, of course, is that somebody who is unarmed is not dangerous. And that is bullshit. If you've ever been sucker punched, or shoved to the ground, anything physical, you know that an unarmed person can still cause harm to another. So, that's a silly thing to even say. But anyhow, the whole shooting in the hand or shooting in the leg thing. Police are not trained to shoot to kill. They're trained to shoot to stop the threat. And first of all, the likelihood, and I don't care how much training you have, I don't care how many, times you've been at the range, any of those things, when you are in a crisis situation, and that means being attacked or under the threat of being attacked, you're not going to try and aim for the smallest, thinnest, narrowest part of your target. Okay? Because why? Because you're probably going to miss. You're in the middle of an attack or an altercation or whatever you want to call it. And you're not going to be taking that time to shoot for something tiny. It's just ridiculous to even think that that's a good idea. You're going to aim for the largest mass of your target, which obviously is the chest area. So that's where you're aiming if you have time to even aim. It's just common sense. But they don't have that, do they? I don't know why I expect it. I don't know why I think they should or would or could, but there it is. So there's that. So let's dispel that. I know. I'm preaching to the choir. You guys already know all this stuff, but it's just kind of like the refresher course to share with other people who ask these dumb questions or comment these dumb questions. By the way, most of the time, it really isn't worth your time or effort to respond to these stupid things. The odds of changing their minds are pretty slim. Most of the time they're so convinced of their illogic that they refuse to be told otherwise, because then they would have to give up everything that they believed and admit that they were wrong. So, I'm not discouraging you from correcting people. Obviously, this whole episode is about encouraging you to dispel the lies and the half-truths and all of that garbage. But, just be mindful of your audience, I guess. I guess that would be the actual, side note here, is to say, be mindful of your audience. There are people who are receptive and willing to listen. Those are the people you talk to. The ones that are just, there to argue and listen to themselves pontificate, kind of like I'm doing right now. Kind of pontificating, aren't I? Whatever. Yeah, so anyhow, let's go back to a fact sharing. So here's fact number 1, and I've shared this before, but there are approximately, of course we're rounding off here, but there are about 700,000 sworn law enforcement officers in the United States, okay? And that's according to the FBI's Uniform Crime Reporting, okay? Because I like when we can cite our sources, because they very rarely can cite their sources other than to say I saw it in a meme, or I read a headline somewhere that said blah blah blah, but they didn't investigate it, didn't read the whole article. But anyhow, we can cite our sources, which is the FBI's Uniform Crime Reporting. 700,000 sworn law enforcement officers in the United States. So now when we're talking, because we're talking about the, remember, we're talking about policing in America is systemically racist, okay? We're talking specifically about that. So this is why I'm bringing this up. 700,000 sworn law enforcement officers in the United States. That makes for one unarmed black male shot and killed for every 49,000 sworn police officers. One for every 49,000. And now remember, we talked about when shooting at someone that is unarmed is justified. The next stat I have for you comes from 2018, and that's I'm guessing that's when like the last official compiling of this was recorded, like officially. But in 2018, police made 10 million arrests, and this is kind of like an average. It's year to year, I believe, from what I recall reading somewhere in some other article. Yeah, I know, I should be able to cite it. Hopefully I'll be able to find it. In 2018, police made 10 million arrests. Race was known for half of the offenders. And of that half, 1.5 million, and that's 27.4%, were black. Okay, I'll say that again. 10 million arrests. Race was known for about half. Of that half, 1.5 million, which is 27.4%, were black. In that year, 229 black males were shot and killed by police. And there were actually more white people shot and killed by police that year. Now, mind you, this is not a competition over how many people. It's not a competition about how many people get shot by police. I kind of hate these statistics in a way, because that almost gives that perception that, you know, oh, well, more white people, cops shot more of this race, cops shot more of that race. They didn't shoot as many of this other race. But we need to have these numbers, okay, to make these comparisons in relation to the whole systemically racist concept that they try and push constantly. 229 black males were shot and killed by police that year. Unarmed black men shot and killed, the number was 23. So that means 1 out of 70,000 black men arrested. 1 out of 70,000 black men arrested. We're going to sit on that for a second. 1 out of 70,000. Doesn't really sound like an epidemic, does it? It doesn't really sound like systemic racism to me. Maybe it still does to you. I don't know, but we'll keep going. We'll keep going. All right, so here's another interesting one. About 53.5 million people have at least one contact with police. 95% of those contacts involves traffic stops. And that's according to the Bureau of Justice Statistics, BJS, okay? 91% of whites and 85% of blacks contacted by police during traffic stops said that police behaved properly. You ready for this one? 2% of all citizens contacted by police experienced force or the threat of force. 2%. 2% experienced force or the threat of force. Now, as of 2019, we had approximately 328 million people living in the United States. Blacks comprised 13.4 or 44 million people. So that means that police shot and killed one unarmed black male out of every 3 million black Americans. 1 out of 3 million. Yes, I will say that again. 1 out of 3 million. Okay? We're going to talk about confounding variables. I love this, actually. I love that phrase for some reason. Confounding variables. A 2019 National Academy of Science study found that people of color face a higher likelihood of being killed by police than do white men and women. It says that risk peaks in young adulthood and that men of color face a non-trivial lifetime risk of being killed by police. Woo. That's disturbing, right? That's disturbing. If you left it, I mean, it's disturbing no matter what. But if you leave that statement on its own, you will walk away believing that there is an epidemic of police shooting and killing black men, specifically, because that's the predominant number there. So that study concluded that blacks are 2.5 times more likely to be killed by police than whites. However, yes, of course there is a however. Now, the however does not come up in corporate media reporting. Of course, it does not come up. They don't want to talk about confounding variables because it destroys their false narrative of what's going on in America. The simple fact is, if any group engages in more violent crime, they will have more contact with police and a higher chance of being shot. And the black population in the United States has a higher crime rate than the white population. Listen, this is uncomfortable for me to talk about. I have to be perfectly honest here. I'm as white as, you can get. I mean, technically I'm Hispanic, but if you look at me, I just look like your average typical white girl. So talking about another race and, you know, showing the negatives, it's uncomfortable for me. I'm not gonna say that it's not, but we have to discuss this, because we have to discuss facts even when they're uncomfortable. I have to ignore my feelings and talk about facts, because that's what really matters here in the grand scheme of things. You need to know, you can have all the feelings in the world, but you need to know the facts, and you can feel however you want about them, but at least you have them, right? In 2017, 65% of Black households had a single parent. Now, what about white households? They're at 24% as of 2017. Now, there have been tons of studies done on the impact of a two-parent household, having a male figure in the household, their rates for crime, for dropping out of school, all kinds of things decrease dramatically when there are two parents in the household. This is based on studies. This is based on research. This isn't just, you know, a meme I saw on Facebook telling me this. So, and that is, and I can give you the link, that is according to the Minnesota Psychological Association, okay? The more interaction a child has with the father, the less likely they are to commit crime. Children from single-parent homes are 4 times more likely to be in poverty and 3 times more likely to end up in jail by age 30. So here's the real problem. To go back to the whole police arrest blacks at a higher rate than they do whites. Again, it's another misleading, half-told truth. You know, and by the way, they also arrest white Americans at a higher rate than Asian Americans. So if we're playing the comparing game, you know, everybody's got a spot in this, I guess. So the fact of the matter is, and again, it's an uncomfortable fact, but the fact of the matter is that police are arresting people who commit crimes, and the crimes are committed disproportionately by race. That's not the police's fault. That's the police doing their job. And even the Wall Street Journal has said that no statistically significant difference by race between how likely people were to commit serious violent crimes and how likely they were to be arrested. So the data suggests that police focus on criminals' actions and not their race. So what does that mean? That means that 35% of reported offenders were black. In 2019, police fatally shot 1,004 people, most of which were armed or otherwise dangerous. African Americans were a quarter of those killed by cops last year. Here's a big one. African Americans made up 53% of known homicide offenders, and they committed about 60% of the robberies. Here's another big one for you. Are you ready? Police officers are 18.5 times more likely to be killed by a black male than an unarmed black male is to be killed by police. Wait, what? The National Academy of Sciences published research showing that there was no likelihood of being fatally shot by police. And as a matter of fact, police are less likely to kill black people than white people in the same circumstances. I mean, the facts just keep coming. Whites are 1.7 times more likely than blacks to die at the hands of police. From 2000 to 2014, African Americans were murdered 8 times as often as whites per capita, and nearly always as the result of black-on-black assault. 57% of blacks in state prison were convicted of violent crimes. You know, they like to, corporate media likes to tout the whole excessive imprisonment of black males in society, and they usually will cite drugs as being the reason, and it's actually not true. That is not true. This is we're talking about 57% of blacks in state prison were convicted of violent crimes. 57%. And would you believe that under Bill Clinton, the Justice Department found that blacks had a lower chance of prosecution than whites? And so here's the irony of all of that. All of these people that claim to be so concerned about the safety of blacks and the rights of blacks and protecting them are actually the same people that are going to get more Black people killed. Why? Because they're trying to take the police away from these areas. It has been proven over and over and over again that more police presence keeps communities safe. You take the police away, you are taking away law and order. And it's been proven over and over again. Take a look at the stats in George Floyd Square. Okay, take a look at the stats in Chicago, in Austin, in Minneapolis, in Seattle. Look at the violent crime stats in those areas. And by the way, those are the places that chose to defund the police. The simple fact is that more police equals less crime. I know they hate to hear that. They will argue it all day long, but they're wrong. It's as simple as that. They're dead wrong. You know, after the Black Lives Matter movement started in 2014, they like to tell you that police killings declined by 15 to 20%, that there were, what's the number? I'm looking it up. I'm looking at it right now. There were 300 fewer police killings in the cities with these protests, with these BLM protests. But here's the part they leave out. You ready, folks? Are you ready? Murders rose in those same settings by 10%, meaning that somewhere between 1,000 and 6,000 more people died, and by the way, largely Black people, in 2020. All right, so you took away the police. Okay, so what was it, 10%? You decrease police shootings or killings by 10%. Congratulations, that's awesome. Oh, but your murder rate rose, and now between 1,000 and 6,000 more people died because of that. Interesting, right? We'll talk about, since we're talking about BLM, since BLM, thanks to them, the homicide rate in America's major cities rose by 30%, including a 95% increase in Milwaukee, a 92% increase in Louisville, and a 55% in Chicago, and 45% in New York. This is the homicide rate, the murder rate. This is people with lawlessness in their communities just murdering the hell out of each other. Okay? Again, police presence deters crime. Simple as that. And now, because of these, using air quotes, because of these do-gooders, these BLM activists, you have put Black communities, Black children, Black mothers, Black families at risk, at a heightened risk for being killed. Great job, guys. Way to go. As Ben Shapiro said, law and order is the central pillar of any civilized society. If people don't obey the law, there will be no order. You know, they have this wonderful habit of blaming the system all the time for everything. God forbid there's self-accountability. God forbid you look at yourself or you look at your family member or whatever the case is and say, hey, listen, you are screwing shit up. You're screwing your life up. You're hurting other people. You're a hot freaking mess. You're a disaster. You're a terrible person. Oh, no. It's not the criminals' fault. They're criminals. It's the system's fault. So what the fuck, really? And I'm going to quote Ben Shapiro again because I thought it's spot on. Ben Shapiro said, you are depriving Black Americans of agency by suggesting that when they commit crimes, they are not responsible for those crimes because the system itself is responsible. That is a direct quote from Ben Shapiro. He's so right. He is so right. The minute you take away personal responsibility, everybody gets to throw their hands up and say, oh, it's not my fault. It's not my fault I'm a piece of shit. It's everybody else's fault. And that is the liberal way. And I am stepping into politics. I'm doing a little sidestep for 1 minute, but that is a huge difference between conservatives and liberals. That's a big difference between the right and left, so to speak. The right believes in personal accountability, that we are responsible. We are the masters of our own destiny. We are in control. We steer the ship, all of those things. The left believes that society should fix all the problems, and that more government will fix all the problems. Well, look at all these cities. Look at their government systems that are in place in all of these cities, and they've all gone to shit. Again, that's another citable statistic source that I would be happy to give you. I could put it in the links. If somebody wants it, I'll add it somewhere. But, these are all things that are extremely unfortunate, very uncomfortable, and also very true. The numbers don't lie. People lie, but the numbers don't lie. And these numbers were compiled by, numerous databases and sources that, are pretty concrete. As far as I know, as far as I can tell, they're pretty concrete. I mean, you're tracking things that are, put into computer systems, or obviously you can't collect data on things that aren't reported. But so we're going by everything that has been reported. And there's a lot of big numbers here, a lot of statistics, a lot of things, and they all come down to one thing. Policing in America is not systemically racist.
If you're part of the law enforcement family, this is your show. Here we talk about all things Leo family life, the good, the bad, the funny and the sad, and everything in between. The Blue Family Unity Show was created, written, and produced by Elsa Kurt. Music written and produced by Dan Tracy.
It is necessary to purge the establishment.
What she's suggesting that churches do, a focus on...
That's not necessarily a good thing to start with.
They're stating it wasn't around when we needed the greatest generation of the 30s or 40s. It
happened before the election because there's too many Republicans that are afraid that their wrongdoing is going to...
It's unacceptable, and I'm not going to sit here, stay silent, and not call it out. I'm calling out their lies.
Do they think that we are so stupid